Welcome back to Deano's Garage. For the CBR 600 F3 I'm just going to talk you through the oil change. Pretty simple affair, I know, but some of you may have done it, some of you may have not. Some of you obviously you're doing things for the first time. So what you'll need, obviously the correct oil filter. Ordered this online, an HF204. The high flows are cheap and cheerful filters, but providing you change these regularly, then really it's a good filter. Semi-synthetic 10W40 is what you'll need for the CBR 600, and I have bought off eBay a selection of copper washers, which you need obviously the right size to replace the one that comes off of your sump bolt. So I've warmed the bike up, warmed it up to full temperature, and I use this stand. You can get these off of eBay. I bought this off of eBay. Simple to assemble, took me about 10 minutes to assemble, just 4 bolts, that's it. Do them up tight. Normally you'd bolt it to your garage floor, but this works because obviously I'm pushing against the wall and it's got a pivot, so the wheel basically sits in that pivot, and as you push it pivots back against the wall, and as you pull it pivots back and onto the floor. So the oil's fully heated up now, and I'll just show you around this side where the sump bolt is. So here I have my oil pan, which I'm going to drop the oil into. A nice knee cushion. This is just an old pillow. Don't throw away an old pillow if you're going to do a lot of mechanics. Use it to work as a knee cushion. I suffer a bit with my knee, so this works well. So the sump bolt is a 17mm, and it's this side. You can access this with the fairings on, but obviously it's a lot easier with the fairing off. But you can come up underneath in between, get in there and drop that 17mm out, and then obviously the oil's going to drop straight out into your oil pan. Now don't just drop that 17mm out and expect all the oil to flow. You need a little bit of help from our good old friend gravity. Now to help that, what you want to do is come back round this side and unscrew your filler, and that will help the oil to basically pour through. It's a bit like, I guess, if you have ever done a shot with a beer can, you open the top of the can, but you've obviously put a nail or pricked the bottom of the thing. The moment you open the top, the air flows straight through. Gravity helps it just gush straight out. It's a bit like this. You undo this, that's going to help the oil drop out of the sump plug at the bottom. So like I say, this is hot. I can put my hand on here and feel that it's very hot. So the oil's nice and thin and fluid like. All the oil will drop out. Let it drop out for as long as it can. Go and find something else to do. Keep yourself busy. All the oil will drop out. Then you can come back, put the new washer on, put the 17mm back in. Make sure it's the right tight and torque. Don't over tighten it and ruin the thread. And then top up through here using a funnel, put the right amount in. You've got a dipstick on here, but obviously this dipstick is assuming that this bike is on flat ground level. If I use this dipstick whilst it's on here, as you can see, the bike is slightly elevated, which works well for that sump plug because it sits slightly back to the engine here, so the oil will flow out of the engine into that sump plug and drop straight out. But when I want to put that oil in, this needs to be off of this ramp and on flat level ground. So I'll basically measure the amount I need to put in from here and put the exact quantity in. I always pre-fill the filter, not right to the top, but as always, a little bit of fresh oil in the capper there, run it around the ring of the oil filter, having cleaned off the old oil filter surround with a nice clean cloth, clean that rim off, and then you've got an oiled seal here, and then obviously a bit of oil in that filter, and screw it on good hand tight, a little bit more than hand tight if you've got a tool, but don't over tighten. Filters don't need a lot of torque setting, a lot of tightness on there, and then basically fill it up. You're ready to go. So I've let the oil drain now for about 20 minutes or so, kept myself busy doing other things. I'm just about to take this filter off. Now as you can probably see from that filter, it is quite old. It's certainly been through a winter or two of bad weather. I can see rust around that sort of inner rim there. So that filter's been on a while. The oil that came out of the engine was okay, but it was fairly dark, so I definitely needed to change the oil. Now, to get this filter off, you can try, obviously I've got the fairing off, so it's a lot easier for access. When you do go to take this filter off, make sure that your pipes aren't hot. They cool very quickly once the engine's off, but make sure you don't come in here with your hand and burn your hand against that exhaust pipe. Now this is cold, the oil's still very, very warm. Now I could try and grip that with my hand and try and undo it, but I can't actually get my hand all the way around it because it's quite tight against the engine. So what I use are these. They're basically sort of adjustable, what would you call them, forceps, adjustable plier type things, but as you can see they've got these teeth on there, and what that will do is kind of squeeze on around the flats of the outer part of the filter, and then as I grip that and turn, you can see that that's turning quite easily. These came from Halfords in England. I think they were pretty cheap, but they have been very useful for various sizes of oil filters. So yeah, you can either get this type or you can get the cup type that normally suit a specific size of filter. It's like a sort of multi-hex headed, if you like, for want of a better term, cup that obviously goes on around this part, which has got these flats on. So it's a specific size that will go on to that. But that's why I like these, because these just grip, bite and turn, and again for doing them up I just, you know, pinch that up tight and in reverse. So just a tip there really about taking the filter off. I'm now going to change it for a new filter, like I say, fill it up partially with oil, but I'll show you that in a minute. Right, now here you can see basically the filter's been removed from the engine, and you can see that outer lip. Now I have already cleaned this outer lip here. Take a clean bit of rag basically and move your finger around, moving away from the inside of the lip out, and again around the back, pushing away from the inner part. What you don't want to do is carry any salts and grits, bits of sand, etc. into it. You want to sort of take your rag and move away from it. You can just see a bit of residue oil still weeping through. That's sort of coming through from the engine, obviously, where the filter would normally leak out. It's coming down there and then dripping down. That's okay. Like I said, so far this engine's probably had about half an hour of oil coming out, and it is actually still coming out of the engine. So we still got a little bit, so it just goes to show, you know, you really can keep these, taking the oil out, letting the oil run out for some time. So the sort of cleaner the oil you want, the more of a flush you want, the longer you leave it to drip basically. So like I say, that's the oil filter removed. Now just to show you, this is the high flow filter. Quite good with these. What they actually have is a hex headed bit welded onto it, sort of spot welded onto it. I think it's probably a 17mm, even has little holes in there, probably if you want to get a pin or something through, but I'm not quite sure why. Once you've got a socket on there, obviously you can do that up and then undo it when you want to remove it. So that's quite a good feature. It doesn't have the flats around here. This is all smooth, but it does have this. But what you don't want to ever do is over tighten this filter, because if you over tighten this, leave the filter on there for some time, this will rust around this lip here. When you go to undo this, there's every chance those little spot welds will come away, and you'll be left with a filter where this bit comes loose but the filter stays on and doesn't move. Then you've got the issue really of sort of smashing it with a screwdriver and trying to turn it with a screwdriver. Many people that have removed oil filters, as I have over the years, have probably resorted to a flat-headed screwdriver and trying to actually sort of turn it round, and it works, but it's not the best way to get a filter off. So here we are, like I say, with this rubber seal, and they normally do put, you can probably just see it in the light there, a little bit of grease on that rubber seal. I'm going to partially fill this filter, not completely, because if you fill it up too much, when you turn this to put it back on there, you're just going to end up losing a lot more oil out of the filter. But partially some oil in there, put some clean oil around that seal and onto that clean flange, and then tighten it up fully to its correct torque setting. Normally a good hand tightness, and if you're using a socket or something, don't over tighten it, they don't need too much. And then once this is on, I can put that sump plug back in as well with the new copper ring that I've got on here. This is a copper sealing ring. I had an aluminium one on there before. That squashes into the sump, stops it from leaking, and then I'm ready to put new fresh oil back in there. And that pretty much is an oil change, providing you get the right quantity of oil when you put it in there, and that will go in through here. You're pretty much done then. So filter tightened up, sump plug tightened up, oil back in there the right quantity, tighten that up, and you're done with your oil change. Thanks for watching Deano's Garage. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be showing you these videos, updating some of these videos, and of course I'll be adding to some of these along the way.